In Scotland, work to remove a police helicopter from the roof of a Glasgow pub is complete. It crashed Friday night, and investigators say the pilot did not make any emergency calls before hitting the roof, killing 9 people, including the 3 people on board. Investigators say there was no data recorder on the craft, complicating efforts to determine what went wrong. And we are learning new details about that train derailment just outside New York City, which left 4 people dead on Sunday. Just hours ago, investigators gave an update on their work, and among their findings, the train was traveling at nearly 3 times the speed limit for that part of the track. CCTV's Nick Harper is live at the scene of the crash in the Bronx and joins us now with more. Nick.
Elaine, an incredible figure coming from investigators today. The train should have been going at 48 kilometers an hour as it ended the bend. Instead, it was traveling at 132 kilometers an hour, well over the speed limit. As the investigation continues, workers continued here on the site throughout the day, but that hasn't been an easy task. Trying to put the pieces back together again. While rounding a sharp curve in the Bronx on Sunday, the commuter train carrying 150 passengers ran off the tracks, killing 4 and injuring dozens more.
I heard a lot of crunching and grinding, and I started seeing stars in front of my eyes, and I thought, my goodness, is this the end?
A couple people were hurt very badly right in front of me, yeah. Literally, the woman in front of me, she's bleeding from her head pretty bad. We really couldn't get out.
The work to move the 7 carriages started early. First lights saw cranes manhandling the metal cars, picking them up where they'd fallen. By late lunchtime, the carriage that stopped just short of the water was dragged back towards the tracks. Moving the train carriages is a slow and difficult process. It takes planning and coordination. This has been going on now for more than 7 hours, and it's likely to last some time to come. Meanwhile, away from the tracks, workers already started on processing the data from the train's 2 black boxes. The National Transportation Safety Board, who are leading the investigation, have recovered 2 so-called event recorders, one from the cab car and one from the locomotive. Initial tests carried out in Washington, D.C. have revealed some startling data about the train's speed in the moments before the accident. Those details were revealed at a press conference held by the NTSB.
So the question is, was this human error or faulty equipment? And the answer is, at this point in time, we can't tell.
Some worrying data that now needs to be explained. This is the 2nd large-scale commuter train accident for Metro North this year, but the first in its 31-year history to result in passenger death. The National Transportation Safety Board is saying that these event recorders can only tell us so much. They can tell us what happened, but not why it happened. To understand that, they're carrying out a series of interviews. They've already started speaking to the engineer who was driving the train, and they say that they've taken away his cell phone for analysis. That is routine procedure. But at this stage, they're saying it looks as if the tracks were okay, which seems to suggest that this accident was down to 2 things, either mechanical failure or human error. But the investigation will take some time, and we may not know the full results of it for another year. Elaine?
All right, Nick Harper reporting live from the U.S. state of New York. There is technology that is specifically designed to prevent accidents like this one anywhere in the world and thus save lives. So why isn't it being used? CCTV's Nathan King has insight.
If the cause of this weekend's train crash in New York, like the one in Spain earlier this year, was speed, then the answer may be a technology that can literally stop a train in its tracks. If a train engineer rounds a bend too fast, a computer system called Positive Train Control, or PTC, could be the answer. Using sensors both on the rails and in the train, satellites can track the locomotive, warn the drivers to slow down, and if the operator doesn't act in time, PTC can hit the brakes automatically.
It will absolutely save lives, both crew members, passengers, and maybe people along the wayside as well.
The technology can also help avoid train collisions, like this one in California in 2008 that killed 25 people. Positive Train Control is already used on some US trains and was introduced in 2015 on the very service that crashed in New York this weekend. But what works well on trains doesn't necessarily work so well on planes. Some experts are warning but there's an over-reliance on technology, an addiction to automation, which sometimes can have catastrophic results. Air France 447 crashed into the Atlantic Ocean in June 2009, killing all 228 passengers and crew. An investigation questioned pilot training and an inability to react when the autopilot disengages during an emergency. Some experts say pilots have become too dependent on technology and are trained to rely too heavily on their computerized systems.
When you bring on a new pilot who has not been through some of the things that some of the older guys have, they've never flown an airplane that had anything but some computer activity on it. They don't understand what to do necessarily when something goes wrong with their computer.
Notable in-flight autopilot failures include 2008 Air Canada flight, several passengers injured. 2009, the Air France flight crashed and killed 228. 2011, Air France flight within 3 knots of a stall, and in 2012, an Aeroflot flight made an emergency landing. Whether it's on the rails or in the air, human error at high speed can lead to tragedy. Technology has largely made the skies safer and could do the same for trains. But as some emergencies show, technology can fail, and then human judgment and training becomes all important. Nathan King, CCTV, Washington.